It was the middle of the night when Claire Mitchell, barely 21 years old, was jolted awake by a sound so strange, so out of place, that her blood instantly ran cold. As she sat alone in the dimly lit front room of a remote farmhouse in northern Louisiana, a shadow taller than the window slowly rose up, and seconds later, a clawed hand slashed through the screen, nearly tearing her face apart. What Claire thought was a bear was not a bear. Today we're going back to May 5th, 1973, to a chilling encounter in a place you've probably never heard of, Redwater Hollow, Louisiana. This bizarre case not only terrified a family, but inspired legends that people still talk about to this day. But was it just a wild animal? Or was it something much, much worse? This is one of those stories that will have you questioning every sound you hear tonight. Claire and her husband, Daniel Mitchell, were staying the weekend at his cousin's old farmhouse. The house sat isolated, surrounded by thick forest and boggy swampland. That night, Daniel and his cousin Evan were up late, quietly talking in the kitchen while Claire tried to sleep on a creaky couch in the front room. The only sounds were the usual nighttime chorus, the croaking frogs, chirping insects, and the soft rustle of trees swaying in the breeze. But mixed into this soothing backdrop, Claire began to hear something off. It was a slow, methodical creaking. At first, she brushed it off as the old house settling. But then, the sound started moving, back and forth, right outside the window above her head, like heavy footsteps on wooden planks. The porch. Claire sat up, peering out the window. Nothing. Relieved, she leaned in closer to the screen to get a better look below. And that's when a massive, dark shape suddenly rose up, blotting out the moonlight. Before she could even scream, this thing, whatever it was, slashed through the screen with a thick, matted, reddish-brown paw, its claws gleaming as they tore through the mesh, missing Claire's face by inches. She stumbled back, screaming, as the creature bolted away into the night. Daniel and Evan rushed into the room. All Claire could manage to say was, "It's a bear. It's a bear." But the two men could tell from her face something was terribly wrong. They grabbed their shotguns and flashlights and charged outside. The porch was empty. They swept the tree line, checked the yard, but saw nothing. The brothers split up, circling the house from opposite directions. After nearly half an hour of searching, they regrouped. Whatever it was, it seemed to have vanished. But something about this didn't sit right with them. They'd both grown up hunting in these woods. Bears didn't act like this. They didn't creep around porches and swipe at people through windows unprovoked. And so, they decided they needed to kill it before it came back. Daniel took up watch at the rear of the house while Evan stayed out front. Minutes later, standing in the damp night air, Daniel noticed a revolting stench, like rotting meat soaked in swamp water. As he scanned the tree line with his flashlight, the foul odor grew stronger. Then, crack, branches snapping to his left. He spun the beam of light toward the noise, and there it was, a hulking figure dashing into the woods on two legs. Without thinking, Daniel raised his shotgun and fired. A high-pitched yelp echoed through the trees. "I hit it!" Daniel shouted, as he sprinted after the shadow, Evan right behind him. But when they reached the spot, there was no sign of the creature. No blood, no tracks, nothing. For a brief moment, they convinced themselves that the shot must have scared it off for good. But then, the women's screams erupted from inside the house. Daniel and Evan sprinted back toward the porch. That rancid stench hit them again, stronger this time. Just as Daniel's boot hit the first porch step, Evan yelled, "Stop!" But it was too late. From the shadows, the creature lunged. Massive claws raked across Daniel's shoulder, sending him sprawling to the ground. The weight of the thing pressed him down as it slashed at him. Up close, Daniel could see patches of slick, filthy fur hanging off a chest far too broad to be a bear's. Its eyes, burning red, glared into his. Summoning every ounce of strength, Daniel twisted and rolled, managing to slip out from under it. He staggered up, bolted to the front door, and crashed inside, with Claire slamming the door shut behind him. Evan was still outside. A shotgun blast rang out. Moments later, the front door creaked open, and Evan stepped in, pale as a ghost. In a shaky voice, he said, "It's not dead, and that's no bear." At first light, Claire drove Daniel to a nearby hospital where doctors treated his wounds and his severe state of shock. Meanwhile, Evan led local authorities back to the farmhouse. The creature was gone, but its footprints remained. The prints were bizarre. Three-toed, deep impressions, unlike anything they'd seen before. Even stranger, clawed handprints were found smeared along the side of the house as if it had tried to pry its way in. Locals knew exactly what this was. For generations, they'd whispered about the Caddo swamp devil, a monstrous figure said to roam the backwoods of northern Louisiana. Described as a 7-foot-tall, bipedal beast with matted fur and glowing red eyes, the swamp devil was more legend than fact, until that night. Skeptics would later suggest it was a feral hog, or perhaps a sick bear, but no one could explain the tracks, or the hands, or why it tried to break into a house. To this day, hunters, campers, and the brave few who wander near Redwater Hollow still report hearing heavy footsteps on old porches, or catching a whiff of something rotten just before seeing two red eyes staring from the trees. And if you listen closely, late at night, you might just hear that slow, deliberate creaking, just like Claire did. And before you know it, you'll be face to face with something that's not a bear. But of course, this is just a story, right? Unless it happens again tonight.